Hi, everybody. Yes, it's Shelly with Health Education TV, right? So HETV. And of course, you guys know by now, I'm Dr. Shelly. I got my PhD in NCLEX, right? How to evaluate why a student fails the NCLEX. And in that endeavor, I've learned quite a few things that might shock you. One of those things is that not everybody needs a review course. So, to say carte blanche, oh, when you graduate, you got to get a review course. No, I don't agree with that, okay? So, but how do you know who needs one and who doesn't? So this video is to kind of help you decide who needs a review and who doesn't. Very much the same way I decide how to help you when you call me and you're struggling. Lots of people call me for different things, right? Because I do this $25 consultation, right? It's for nursing students struggling in college. It's for students who just graduated and don't know how to study for the NCLEX. It's for students who already failed a bazillion times and they're like, where do I go now? How do I pass this horrifying test? It's for students who graduated years ago and now they're like wondering, should they get back in the game because they heard that this NGN NCLEX was something that maybe they could pass. And that's true. I agree. Sometimes it's a student who calls me who's an English second language student and they realize because they were not born in the United States, they're at a very high risk of failing. Like the person born in the United States has a 79% passage rate on NCLEX, but then someone born outside of the United States only has like a 49% passage rate. So when that student calls me, they pay their $25. I call them, actually, not them calling me sometimes, but most of the time I call you. And we talk through every little risk factor that you could ever possibly have. And we decide together what's the best route to take to ensure success on the NCLEX, right? Because that's what it's all about, passing this NCLEX. And it's just been brought to my attention that you guys are kind of shocked when I tell you, no, you don't need a review. Even people who failed, they're like, really? I don't need to pay for a review course? And it might sound like counterintuitive because like, why would I, an NCLEX reviewer, tell you that you don't need a review course? Because it's called integrity, something we don't see very much of nowadays, but it's called integrity. And if this is my ministry, which indeed it is, this is my ministry. This is what I feel strongly God put me on earth to do, then I'm not going to lie to you. If I know that there's several things you can do without spending tons of money on a review course, then I'm going to tell you. And the thing about it is a lot of the students that I talk to, the majority of them have already failed the NCLEX and they have spent thousands of dollars on all these different types of review courses and people and videos and questions and software and oh my God, and they're still failing. So, I look at all that and I'm like, listen, unless you really need it, I'm not going to tell you about a review course. I'm just not, because you don't need it. So let's talk about who does not need to take an NCLEX review course. And I have my little magic whiteboard behind me, which is always fun because it's written, so let it be done. So let it be written, so let it be done, right? I think that's like 10 Commandments, like one of my favorite movies. But anyway, let's go. Here we go. Are you a new graduate from a good school? Ooh, that's kind of heavy because frankly, I have done some analysis over these years and I almost want to say, if you're in Florida, you probably never went to a good school. Because almost every student that I talked to that went to some vocational or technical college in Florida, some privately owned college, university, technical, vocational, whatever it was in Florida, oh my God, those are the worst schools on earth. It's not really shocking to me to hear that a fake school was down there as well, because quite frankly, they got a little system going on down in Florida, other than the racism we all know they have. What they got going on in Florida And I don't know who's responsible for the education. It's probably the same people trying to tell us that slavery benefited us. Yeah, but whoever's in charge of education in Florida might want to check themselves before they wreck themselves, because here's what they got going on in Florida. In Florida, almost every nursing school that I've come into contact with students is a piece of shit. It's either closed or it's closing or it's on probation or something. Now, I'm sure there's some good nursing schools in Florida somewhere. I just haven't seen them yet. I guess I wouldn't. Those students have graduated and they're now nurses. My other problem with Florida, among many, is the fact that when you go to school in Florida and then you take the NCLEX exam and then you fail it, if you fail it 3 times, now you've got to take a remedial course for $2,000 or more, and that remedial course is just a piece of shit as well. So now you've spent tons of money. So one of the things I would say to you about Florida, if you did go to school in Florida, try applying in any other state to take your test except for Florida, because they have the rule that once you fail 3 times, you have to do remediation. Now, that being said, let's check out these schools. We know that a 4-year program, a bachelor's in nursing program, is probably a very good program. It's very hard to keep getting that accredited, and those schools are usually very much good schools. But there are also an amazing array of, especially in Cleveland, Ohio, of community colleges. Right here in Cleveland, I dare say that Tri-C, it's called Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College, is one of the best colleges in the state. Yeah, true. Lorain County Community College, another really good college in the state of Ohio. So, depending on what's going on, how do you know it's a good school? Well, number one, are they on probation? Ask those questions when you go to nursing school and you're hoping they accept you into the nursing program. They better hope you accept them. And the questions you need to ask is, are you on probation? Have you ever been on probation? And are you accredited? What is your passage rate? Keep in mind the national passage rate is about 79%. If they tell you 42, or like the one school was 12, run, Forrest, run. But if you're at the point where it's a little too late, you've already graduated from one of those schools, well then guess what? You need a review course, because you never really learned the basics. So if it's a really bad school, you look it up on the Board of Nursing site and you see they have a 12% passage rate and you already failed a couple times, yeah, you need a review course. But if you went to a good school, you might not. Let's look at some other things. Did you pass the HIMSS on your first try? You know, that's a big deal. HIMSS is not an easy test to pass. And while it doesn't guarantee success, it is a good judge about how you do on a standardized nursing test with NCLEX type questions. So if you pass this test on the first try, and many of these schools require like a 900, 850, whatever, if you pass this HIMSS or ATI exam on the first try, yeah, that's pretty reassuring. It's also very reassuring in the sense that your school is probably a really good school. Because here's the thing. If you notice everybody in your class is failing the HIMSS or the ATI exit exam, it was probably a shitty school to begin with, because ain't none of y'all learned nothing. You can put the 2 and 2 together and come up with 4. How about this one? You never failed a nursing class. I cannot tell you how much doing my PhD, looking at all the thousands of journal articles and research on who fails the NCLEX, I cannot tell you how many had in the actual list of reasons why students fail the fact that they had failed a nursing course or 2 while they were navigating through nursing school. If you struggle through nursing school, you're going to struggle with the NCLEX. If you failed, you actually failed a nursing course, I don't care when you tell me, I only failed it by 1 point. She could have gave me the point. Bullshit. You had to make the cutoff somewhere. So if you failed, you failed, okay? Who wants a borderline, I almost passed person, right? Okay, so if you failed, and you probably should think about a review course. And these things that I'm going through today, they're pretty cumulative. In other words, you went to a bad school, you failed your HESI twice, third time you finally got it right, you failed maternity. Okay, now come on now. You got 3 strikes, you're out, and I ain't even got through the board yet. The next one is something that shocks me. It shocks me because when I have students that come in my class, they don't very often even know what this is. And that would be your grade point average. Like I'll ask students, do you know what that is? No. Do you know what yours was? No. Do you know how we decided? No. Wow, because this is in the research as one of the #1 reasons for failing NCLEX. A grade point average, let's take it back to high school, because sometimes my students remember high school grades, sometimes they don't. It's kind of scary. Let's go back though and try. If you got an A, it was a 4 point, if you got all A's, right? It was a 4.0 grade point average. If you got all B's, no A's, no C's, nothing, it was a 3.0 grade point average. If in fact you got all C's, that's a 2.0. All D's is a 1.0. It's an average if you mix them up. What does it mean to you? If your grade point average was 3.3 and higher, you probably don't need a review course, meaning that for most of your grades in nursing school, you got B's and A's, probably no C's at all, or maybe just 1 in a really difficult course. For me, it probably would have been chemistry or physics or something. In that case, you have a good chance of passing this test. And so you kind of do want to know what your grade point average is. It blows me away that you come into my class and you don't know what that is. So come on, y'all. Let's do a little educating ourselves, okay? Let's keep it moving. Number 5 is taking the NCLEX within 30 days of graduation or sooner. Probably half the people that fail the NCLEX, they graduated from nursing school, they thought they deserved a break and a vacation, they took that vacation, they had a good time on that vacation, they got that cake with the stethoscope, and they got that bikini that shows everything and then some because they are fine and intelligent, and now they're a nurse, and then they came home and failed the NCLEX. Yeah. Why? Well, statistically speaking, it only takes about 3 weeks to forget everything you learned. That's crazy. Remember, for some of you, nursing school was less than a year. For others, it was 18 months. For some, you got no clinicals because of COVID. And now you're going to go on a vacation instead of just going ahead and finishing the job by taking the test immediately as soon as you can. Yeah, so I talked to one lady last night. She said her mother was ill, and I get that. So she had to go out of the country to take care of her mother. And when she came back, she took the test and failed. But I think she would have passed had she just taken it immediately after. So your goal is to really study as hard as you can while you're in school, and then take that test, especially if some of these other things are working on your behalf. Like you did really well in nursing school. You passed the HESI on the first try. You went to a decent school. Well, then just take the test as soon as you can. Maybe study for 6 weeks, 3 weeks, not 6 weeks, God forbid. Study for a couple of weeks with some NCLEX type questions. Look at some pharmacology. I would definitely agree with that. So study the meds, and something that schools don't do very well teaching is infectious diseases. And remember, If your school didn't really teach infectious diseases, this is a huge problem because it's 22% of the NCLEX when you add it together with post-op, pre-op, intra-op, and all of the pain management issues when patients have surgery, which is what I do. I combine the infectious diseases with my pre-op, intra-op teaching, and this comes to about 22% of your NCLEX. And I find probably 98% of schools do not teach infectious diseases. And so if you did need some help in that, then fine. That's like, I think, a $20 or $15. I don't even know what the price is because it's so cheap. It's just a handout. It's the handout that I make for you. It's pink. It has all the infectious diseases or whatever you need. And pharmacology, we have what I would consider one of the best pharmacology packets. So if you needed that, fine. But you're still not taking a massive review course. You're just trying to brush up on some things that maybe your school maybe didn't have a lot of time to teach, okay? So again, infectious disease, pharmacology. Another one is management of care. That's your ethical, legal, and all the delegation and that sort of thing. So whatever, you know, I'm just trying to help you out. I don't want you to spend money if you don't have to. No, so this is a big one. Don't just think you deserve a vacation because you graduated from nursing school. You kind of do deserve a vacation, but that vacation is sweeter if you pass your NCLEX exam. I was you were I. I mean, I did. I went to school. I remember saying this was the hardest thing ever in my life and I'll never go back again. And, you know, school sucked ass. I mean, I did all that, but I didn't go on a vacation until I had sealed the deal. All right, so that would probably be like something I put a little star by because a lot of y'all do it and you tell me that you did it. I mean, if you just look in my playlist and you go to inspiring testimonies, almost 90% took a vacation first before they really earned it with an NCLEX passage, right? Okay, so come on, let's do more. Number 6, I know this is going to come as a shock, but if you only failed the NCLEX once, then you probably don't need a review course if, here's our ifs. Are you ready? Come on. Here's the ifs. If, when you got your report, there were no belows on the candidate report. And, here's another one. And if you went all the way to 150 or the maximum number of questions allowed, because guess what? If you went all the way to the maximum number of questions allowed, you almost passed. Yeah, that's what that means. It means you almost did this shit. So let's think about this. You only failed once. You got all the questions. You went to the max. And you have no belows on your candidate report. Instead, you have aboves and you have nears. You do not need to take an expensive review course. No, the hell you don't. What you do need to do is start looking at the videos, get some good software like UWorld RN only, not LPN, even if you are an LPN, no. So UWorld RN only with videos, and I don't care whose videos you watch, but you need to do a systematic approach, one subject at a time, get your score that you need, and RNs, if you failed before, you need an 85%. LPNs, if you failed before, you need a 75%. And that's what you need every time you take this test, or you're just not ready. My pet peeve is when students tell me, I did the assessment test, I did the CATS test, I did this test and that test, and when I did it, it said I had a good chance of passing. And I'll ask them, well, what were your scores? And they'll say 60s. Well, that's a good chance at failing, because think about it. 60% is failing, right? I mean, think about it. You got 100%. 100% is a perfect paper. 90% was at A. 80% was at B. 70% and above was basically a C minus. So I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. The fact that somebody convinced you that scores in the 60s were all you needed to pass the NCLEX, that's sad. Like, I want to just slap the software company for telling you that. And I've been told that UWorld and Archer do that, and it's all baloney. Ooh, get that off my chest. the tits. Next, if you failed before, you got no belows, you got all the way to 150 questions, you probably are good to try to just start over. Do not take that test in 45 days. One of the problems you guys do have, and I will say this across the board, you fail the test and then you turn it right around and you do it again because you took it 45 days later. Ain't shit changed but the rent. You ain't did nothing to get better at what you didn't do so well in. So please, you guys, don't even apply. Don't apply for your ATT. Don't even apply for it until you are getting 75s or 85s on those questions. That might help you too. I think that'll help a lot because I'm livid. I see people taking it 10 times, 5 times, 8 times, 7 times, 4 times. I gotta tell you, the more you fail, the more they think you should fail. And so they just make this test really hard. Now, here's one that's hard because I was full-time when I was in school. I didn't have any help. I couldn't even get bus fare from my dad. And that's real. Had no mother in my life helping me at all. So there I was with a kid all on my own doing this shit. I didn't even have health insurance. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And so I did work 40 to 60 hours a week trying to make it happen. I mean, that was just what I ended up doing. And I had Section 8, so that helped a lot. Food stamps and everything else. I mean, really. But I mean, I really had to work. I had to work a lot because school books cost. And so I get that you might be like me on that issue, but I'm just trying to tell you that if you work less than 24 hours a week, you will have the time you need to devote doing questions and looking at videos on on YouTube. You'll have the time you need to take the good notes, to look at the rationales, to take good notes on the rationales. You will have that kind of time. When you don't, and you work full-time like I did, well, it's kind of hard. So I get it, but I thought I'd put that out there. The last one is you will not need a review if you study one subject at a time and you look at videos on YouTube, then you do questions in that same subject and review the rationales from those questions that you did. In other words, that's my mastery program where you just tackle one subject at a time and you beat that mother sucker up until you know your shit. In other words, you know that subject so well that no matter what anyone asks you on that subject, you can handle the biz because you already did the work. You studied the videos, you studied the questions, you studied the rationales. You got this. And I just want to say my videos are good, but there are others that are just as good. So I'm not like, territorial over that at all. Mine are a little bit more organized, I feel, like by playlist. So, you can utilize mine or you can utilize anybody else's. Frankly, if I were you, I would use 2 good people that you like. I like her videos and I like his videos, or I like her videos and I like her videos. And if you look at, if you look at peptic ulcer disease on my channel, go look at it on someone else's channel too. Really immerse yourself in that subject. If you're checking out cardio and congestive heart failure on my channel, go look at congestive heart failure on someone else's channel. Mix it up a little bit. It's kind of like the software. If you're in my class, I don't just do UWorld, I do another software. If you're right here locally, face-to-face with me, I do something different because I can. But if you're online and you just have the one software, that's fine, but then switch it up on the videos. Get at least more than one viewpoint on this body system. The last thing I want to say, because I gave you 10 reasons why you may not need an NCLEX review. The last thing I want to say is if you were born outside of the United States, and maybe 1 or 2 of these is true, or maybe a lot of these are true, you need a review more than anybody because, again, This testing passage rate is super low for those born outside of the United States. Now, I gotta go. Deuces. I've done enough now. I told you who didn't need a review. If you want some more help on this subject, feel free to text me 216-410-0936. So maybe you want a consultation. It's only $25, Cash App or PayPal. If that's something you think you could benefit from, just getting a plan together, you and me together, that'd be perfect. And I'm always available a lot of times on the weekends. Don't expect me to call 15 seconds after you pay your money. That's retarded. Because guess what? I work full time and I teach students. So I don't just pick my nose for a living. Yeah, so it might take a day or two, but I got you. And we're going to pass this test with flying colors.